Hey everybody, I'm Matt DeWolf and I'm your host for Better Car Washing Everywhere. This podcast is for you if you want to be a better car washer no matter where you are on your car wash journey. And hopefully along the way, we help develop you in your leadership potential as well. Now to do that, we're going to have lots of conversations, and today's conversation is going to be around consumer behaviors and how those have changed and what might that mean for car wash operators in this space. So to do that, I'm going to ask a friend to come on and help me unpack that and answer a lot of questions. So joining me today is Tara Baugher from TB Consulting. Tara, welcome.
Thank you for having me. You know, I love sharing my opinions.
Well, this is a really fun space to have a lot of opinions because we're going to be talking a lot about this consumer behavior and what's changing and what can we be doing better from an operator perspective to kind of tune into that stuff. So let's get into it a little bit, shall we?
We shall.
We shall. Excellent. Okay, so some of the stuff that I was looking at as I kind of prepared for this conversation, some really interesting data points started showing up, and I want to talk through a little bit of these with you and see if it jives with what you're seeing. So maybe the first one that I thought was really interesting in terms of what today's consumer looks like is that they seem to have less and less time and therefore are also less and less patient. Is that what you're kind of seeing as well?
1,000%. 1,000%. I think a great example of that is dial-up internet. Right? Remember how patient we used to be waiting for pages to load, and then we thought it was the fastest thing in the world, and now we get super annoyed if something delays for 2 or 3 seconds. So absolutely, attention spans are shorter and patience is running thin.
I love the dial-up example, like, you know, the AOL.com, trying to get online and listening to the static, walking away, going to get a snack.
Yeah, making sure everybody's off the phone so you can actually get on the internet.
Yeah. Mom, get off the phone. I need to check my email.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing how far we've come in such a short amount of time.
Well, or people who are on the planes and get frustrated, you know, with Wi-Fi not working, right?
Yes. Yeah, I am so guilty of that.
Right.
Right.
Come on, what do you mean? What do you mean it's not working?
Right. It's a luxury. We're literally in a tube in the sky.
Right. Yeah.
And you're getting upset because you can't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's fine. So from an operator perspective, there is a reason that these customers can sometimes be a little bit feisty, right? There's a lot going on. There's a lot happening in the world, as always. And so people are just less patient. We're more tuned to have things now, and we're more stressed. Like we're way more stressed. So that's one thing. Another thing that has changed a little bit, and this obviously ebbs and flows, but right now, consumers are feeling like they have no extra money.
Right.
And that's showing up, right? That's showing up in real ways.
Yeah, it's wallets are definitely thinner. And I think more than ever right now, it's a looming sense of, okay, I need to hold on to my money in case something happens. It's the unknown, and it's the instability of the economy, of our political landscape. It's all of it, so much is unknown and unstable. So now more than ever, consumers are very, very price conscious. They are holding on to their wallets more, which really not complicates things, but it presents challenges for operators.
Well, yeah, I mean, the latest things going on in the news today, it's like, well, there's a coffee shortage. Okay, great. So now coffee is going to get more expensive. So now we've got, basically what's going on, folks, is that we shouldn't eat breakfast anymore. Like eggs are too expensive, coffee's too expensive. Maybe we should just everybody do intermittent fasting and we'll be great.
Yeah.
So those prices are going up. So guess what? For some operators, that small thing, right? Coffee going up is going to impact some of what they're paying for. If you're in a full service operation or maybe a flex and you're offering coffee as one of your amenities, oh, well, that just got more expensive. And guess what? I sure hope you were charging for that. You probably weren't. But I think that's really interesting to watch as you think about what is going on in consumers' brains, right? Everything's more expensive. Now I got to make the hard decision about, do I want to go get my car washed? Do I want to join that club?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And what are we doing as operators to make sure that that membership is the most valuable thing, or
Right.
at least above that morning cup of coffee?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have to be realistic. We
Mm-hmm.
have to be realistic. You mentioned in earlier episodes how this has become a subscription landscape. And when you step
Mm-hmm.
into the subscription world, it is not car wash against car wash, it is subscription against subscription, right?
Yes.
So, what is more important to the consumer and their wallet is tight? Is it the subscription that their kids need for school, or is it the car wash subscription, right? So, I think what really needs to happen is operators to take an honest look at the market and understand that not everybody is going to be a subscription buyer and not everybody can stay a subscription buyer, but that is okay. And there's other things that you can do to provide them a good experience, to keep them
Mm-hmm.
coming back in retail and more. It is not, I know it feels like the sky is falling, but it is not, right? It's just a reality of the world, and we can't necessarily fight against that because there's really nothing we can do. We can provide the best experience possible, the best customer service, but when those customers cancel, we need to make it very clear and that we are sorry to see them go, but we would love to see them come back, and we will continue to serve them in the best way possible.
That's a super, super important piece. You have to make it easy for them to come back, and you have to make them feel wanted back, right?
Yes. Yes.
Because
And yes.
a lot of us say, well, to heck with you. You don't want to be a member? Fine, don't be a member. I don't
Right.
care. And
Right.
then it's like, oh, there's friction. Guess what?
Yeah.
That's not good.
Right, right. And it's never personal. It's
No.
never ever personal. And I see sometimes operators taking it personal, but it's not, it's just reality. Right. And I think, like with the introduction of one click cancel, I think
Yes.
that's only one step in the way of the FTC really tightening up on restrictions and things like that. There's certain operators who won't let customers cancel unless they talk to somebody. From my perspective, that would annoy me. I would
Mm-hmm.
be very frustrated that I couldn't just cancel my membership online. Why not? It's an easy in, easy out, and that is an important part of customer service. The cancellation process is a very important part
Mm-hmm.
of getting customers to return.
Yeah, and I think you got to be, one of the ways around that feeling of like I have no control over the cancellation is people doing downsells, right?
Right.
And downsells are fine, and I think they can be really useful. But I also know that you have to be careful with those because at some point, a couple things happen. One, as a brand, you start to look desperate. So just
Yes.
remember that. That looks pretty desperate when you've given me three different downsell options along the way. Two, again, if your message isn't quite right or that experience doesn't feel quite right, you can alienate that customer like that. It just has to be so well done. And there aren't a lot of groups that do it well because right now we're still relying on a lot of just out of the box functionality and letting it just do, right? We sign
Right.
up for the thing. We say, great, it has downsell capability. Let's turn it on. Great, it's on. There they go.
Right.
But we haven't taken enough time to really think about what that consumer experience looks like,
Yeah.
what that journey looks like for them
Yep.
at that point, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm a firm believer that the customer journey does not stop at the sale or even at cancellation,
Mm-hmm.
right? The customer journey, it's a living, breathing thing. And I completely agree on the downsells. I mean, think about the cable industry and satellite industry, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a well-known trick. All you have to do is call in and threaten to cancel, and they're going to give
Right.
you a better deal, right? Do car washes really want that type of reputation where people figure out all they have to do is try to cancel and they can get a discount? That's just devaluing what they're offering. It is a massive hit on the value of the wash. So with downsells, making sure that you're segmenting your audience and only offering those downsells to specific people,
Mm-hmm.
specific audiences is really kind of a right step in the direction of making sure that downsells don't get out of control. But with anything, free downsells, it all can get out of control, but
Mm-hmm.
making sure to manage it properly is crucial.
Yeah, yeah, and just making sure that you can manage it. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's another piece of it, right? Like make sure that you have the bandwidth to to evaluate that process on a routine basis. Because if you
Right.
just let it go, it's gonna squirrel out. Like you're not gonna be
Yes.
able to control it.
Absolutely. Yep.
So another thing that's going on in consumers' heads these days, and it should come as no surprise to anyone, is that we all feel a little bit lonely. Tara, we all feel lonely because social media and all the things. There's all these things. We're more connected, but at the same time more disconnected than ever. And there's tons of research on all this. The good news is, whether you believe that or not, there's still great opportunity from a car wash perspective because those folks that are coming to your wash want to feel connected to people. And that maybe isn't that they want to come and have a 15-minute conversation with you, or they want to like spend a lot of time transacting business with you physically, but they want to see humans. And they
Right.
want to see humans who look nice, who smile at them, who wave and acknowledge their presence so that they feel seen.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Are you
completely
seeing? Are you
agree.
seeing this? Are we don't need to talk about if you're lonely. That's something for therapy. But are you
Oh,
seeing
okay.
this?
Well, I was gonna get into it, but all right, we'll talk about that later. No, I completely agree. With the advancements in technology and automation and self-serve this, self-serve that, there's really been a massive disconnect in society, especially like you said with social media. Everything's behind a screen. Everything is
Mhm.
interacting with a screen or behind a screen. And I've heard commentary from operators that, well, my customers don't want us to interact. They just like leave their window up and they just want to get through. Well, that's fine. That's fine. But it is human nature to align ourselves with other humans, right? So it is not going to hurt to smile and wave at your members as they come through. It is not going to
Mhm.
hurt at all. If anything, it's going to be a benefit. And I think operators and people in general tend to really underestimate the power of customer service and the power of the people at pay station. Even loading cars,
Mhm.
there are such opportunities to make a big impact in a very, very small way that often get overlooked.
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, nothing is worse than trying to pull onto a belt and having the loader that just is could not be wishing to be anywhere else, like more than he was not wanting to be at that car wash. Right? You're looking at him, and he's not even making eye contact, and the sign's like kind of cockeyed that he's holding for you, so you actually don't know if you should be going right or left or if you're good.
Right.
And he's just disinterested. Show some
Yes.
interest. Like it's
Right.
not that hard to just pretend.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I had a district manager who coined a great acronym called SEE. So it's smile, engage, and educate.
Oh,
So
I love it.
yes, that was like the mantra of our team. It was no matter what customer is in front of you, you smile, you engage, and if the opportunity presents itself, you educate. And that was kind of our spiel. And it wasn't, you don't ignore the customers. If there's a customer on the lot, you give them your attention. And what
Mhm.
I found is that really made a huge impact, not only on our customers, but also within our culture, within our employees. It gave them almost a sense of purpose, right? Where this is your task is to engage with others, right? And it made a huge difference.
Well, what I love most about that is that it's super clear. It's
Mm-hmm.
super clear. See,
See,
smile, engage, educate.
yep, yep, yep.
I
My
love that.
district manager was brilliant.
Well, we're all going to steal it. So thank you to them for that.
Yes, yep.
Here's one that's interesting for you, Tara. As if car wash operators did not have enough things that we needed to monitor or pay attention to or see what people are saying about us in, influencers are having an outsized impact on consumer decisions, meaning folks that are in some of these micro pockets of influencing, like in the car wash space or in quick serve restaurants, are having an outsized impact on consumers' decision to purchase or to frequent that specific location. So, I mean, come on, right?
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's fascinating. People trust people over all,
Hmm.
over everything. I did a study a little while ago about the power of like TikTok and how 71% of people who make purchases online specifically state that they were influenced through forms of social media, whether it's Instagram or TikTok. And About 91% of those people said that those purchases they made were a just off the cuff purchase that they really didn't think about. They just saw it and they thought it was cool, right? So it's amazing how much, and we think about influencers, we think about people who are only online and do it for a living, but that's not necessarily true, right?
Mm-hmm.
People in local community groups on Facebook, those people are influencing each other.
Yep.
Reviews are influencing people, right? There's influence everywhere, and being a part of your local communities on Facebook, being where your community is super important.
Yeah, as long as you go there with a large heart and a bucket full of grace, because
Yes. Yep. Don't take anything personal. It's never
yeah,
personal. It's just a
yeah,
business, right? And they're just people at the end of the day. But it's important to know what's being said about your wash. It's important to know what sentiment people carry and what is happening that's influencing customers in your community, right? We're at the mercy of our demographic. There's only so many people that we can touch in a given area who will actually do business with us. So it's really important to hone in on who are those or where are those places of
hmm
influence, right? And tap into them.
yeah, and I would caution folks who might end up in one of these community groups or might be monitoring a review or might be looking at some of this stuff. That's a data point.
Yes.
That's one data point. Just because one person says something crazy in one of these forums, that doesn't mean you need to go make wholesale changes, and you certainly don't need to come out and attack the person who's saying the thing in that forum. So please don't do that. Please keep that together and like swallow that down and put those feelings, put those emotions way down in your stomach.
It's
Um,
it's hard.
but
It's
I
hard to
think
do
it's super.
sometimes.
Yeah, well, yeah, totally. Because for a lot of people, this is their baby, right? Their
Oh yeah.
business is their baby, and they're passionate about it and they love it. And no way could they have ever done the thing that that person is saying that they're doing.
Oh, of course.
However, it's data.
Yes.
So the most important thing about data is what do we do with it? So take that data, factor that into how you kind of evaluate your business and your processes and what you do and how you conduct yourself every single day with your brand, and then start to evaluate what you do. You can't fix it by blasting somebody on the internet, but you can fix it if it does indicate that there's a little bit of a problem with your wash or what's going on, and you can make some adjustments, and that experience won't happen again.
Right. Right. What better opportunity to uncover things that can be improved?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Here's here's a fact that comes from the C store, the C store landscape. That's going to be maybe a little bit surprising for folks. So, consumers today, according to some NACS research, 61% of people have a favorite convenience store, and 80%, 80% are willing to drive out of their way to go to that convenience store.
Fascinating.
Do you think that tracks? Do you think that similar behavior might exist in the car wash space?
Yes and no. I think that their C store for sure, right?
Yeah.
People are getting out of their cars. They are going in and buying things. They are interacting with more people. Express car wash, we're in and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it depends. I think there absolutely is people who drive out of their way to go to their favorite express wash. However, we all know, all of us know of phenomenal washes with maybe B or C locations that the crappy wash down the road who has an A location is doing high volume or more volume just because they're at a better spot,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think there is a common misconception in car washes. We're not selling clean cars. We're selling convenience. That is what we're selling. In this day and age, people prioritize convenience almost over all. It's fascinating really to look into is it's almost like becoming a commodity and
Mm-hmm.
people are going to pay for convenience. So how can you make your wash the best and most convenient experience possible? But I do think that there are absolutely loyal people who will drive out of their way to go to a certain wash, and especially those, those consumers who are like, oh, well, this wash damaged or they had a
Right.
negative experience at one of the other guys, they'll definitely drive out of their way. But in my opinion, for the most part, people focus on convenience and convenience first.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think you're 1,000% right there. Commoditization and convenience, like it's no longer enough for you to produce a better car.
Right.
So while we all chase the perfect car, the reality of the situation is you have to put out a good car. Like
Hmm.
there's no other alternative. Everybody's putting out a good car. Now
Right.
you can put out a great car, and that might be a differentiation, but it's for a very small group of people.
Hmm. Very
So
small.
just keep that in mind. It's a very small group of people. And I think the other piece of that is that's positive is that that means we have some opportunities, right?
Hmm.
So what can we do that might differentiate us in that space and might make that consumer look to us as their favorite wash? That
Right.
I want that to be my wash, and I will drive out of my way to go get that experience. And the
Right.
keyword is experience, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I completely agree with the sentiment that everybody puts out a clean car.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to certain operators and you ask, why should they come to you versus the competitor? Well, we put out a better car. I'm sorry, but that's not enough. It's
No,
not
it's not.
enough. It's not enough. We see what consumers will deal with and what kind of level of wash people will deal with just because it's a more convenient location. Right? People, for the most part, like you said, there's a very small set who care very, very much about the
Mm-hmm.
quality of the wash, but for the most part, as a general whole, not so much. Right? So where do the opportunities then lie if it's not in a clean car? Right? Because they're not going to come 30 minutes out of their way, 20 minutes out of their way, 15 minutes out of their way just because the car's a little shinier. It's just not realistic. But what is realistic is taking advantage of your customer journey and your touch points, right? Everything has gone so automated, like we already said. Everything is behind a screen. In really bring in the human element into your wash. Really, I think oftentimes people focus on amenities, they focus on chemical, they focus on lights in the tunnel,
Yeah.
they focus on scent. When their most powerful retention tool is standing behind a desk. Your people are your most powerful retention tool, hands down. If you can create a good customer service experience for a consumer, that will sway them more than anything to drive out of their way to go to that wash, right? You can make it personal. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen some washes who, if you're a member, your name will show up on a digital screen at the very end of the tunnel, right? Saying, thank you for coming, have a good day. You can see people's names on certain POS as they pull up. You can call them by their name. You can
Yeah.
wave at people when they're pulling into the lot and invite them to come to your lane. There's a lot of things that you can do that are small, yes, but they make a really big impact collectively.
Yeah. Don't you, I mean, don't you, some of this stuff, it's like, I, I feel like we're getting to the point where it should be like baseline behavior, right? Someone
Yes.
rolls onto your lot, someone from your team should be waving at them. That feels like that should be baseline, but it's not.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not.
not.
Like not
It's
everybody's
not.
doing it.
Right. Well, it's also hard to get
Yeah.
17, 18-year-olds to wave at cars, right? There's also that behavioral element, but I completely agree. It has to be welcoming. It has to
Yeah.
be. It has to be personal. We've all seen really, really negative experiences happen at washes with certain customers, but then that customer turns into a lifetime fan because of the way it was handled, right?
Yeah.
Again, people are your people are your greatest asset, period. I mean, you could be putting out a terrible car, and if your people are great and warm and welcoming, you can bet that people are more likely to come to you just because they enjoy the environment.
Yeah, because it goes back to that data point we talked about. People want to feel connected. They
Yes.
want to feel like they're part of something. And so that simple piece of feeling welcome and feeling like they're part of that location in that moment is going to go a long way to bringing them back. You know, the data is super interesting when you think about all the reviews that you see on car washes. There's such a high percentage of those that mention specific people, right? So and so was great at this wash. They helped me with blah blah blah, right?
Right.
And so it goes back, it just further supports that people are picking their washes and returning to those locations because of the experience they had that is largely driven by the people on the property.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it comes down to even small changes. I'll tell you a story. At my wash, we started implementing that every customer is greeted and every single customer is told goodbye. So you say hello and goodbye to every single person. So the loader, their responsibility was to wave and say either have a good day or whatever sign off works for them
Mm-hmm.
to every single customer. And the staff, I was very blessed to have a great staff. They picked it up quickly. But what I've noticed is once we had a couple newer staff members that weren't doing it consistently, we got customer complaints.
Hmm.
Well, she didn't wave at me. I thought she was having a bad day. Or she was in a bad mood, right? Like it was interesting how receptive customers were to just a very small change. It's just waving and saying goodbye, right? It's such a small thing, but it makes a huge impact.
Yeah, that's really fascinating because it's we can never know what's going on in that customer's head,
Right.
right? And so they pick up and they perceive and they create narratives of their very own based on what they're seeing and what they're experiencing because they're living their own story that day. So
Right.
we have to be really mindful of those little things that it's kind of like if you start giving somebody something free, you better not take it away, right?
Exactly.
It's that same concept. So if you start
Absolutely.
giving away goodbyes and hellos, you better stay on the train.
Yeah, if you're giving away good vibes, you better keep it
Yeah,
up.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. But, to that point, if you look at the best operators or the people who are considered the best operators in our industry, you look at their staffing.
Hmm.
Staffing is where they do not cut corners.
Yep.
Staffing is they invest so much in their people. They overstaff intentionally. They have people on the lot. They have every single pay station staffed. They have, it is they pour so much into that, and that's one of the biggest reasons why they're the best operators is they have retention, they have repeat retail, right? It's because of the experience that the people create.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every good wash organization comes back to the people.
Yes.
Every single time. Every single time.
Yep.
There's like no, there is no instance where putting out an amazing car, even if you could put out a car that was completely dry with
Mm-hmm.
no prep and no one towel drying at the finish, that's not enough.
No, it's
That's not going to
not.
make you a great organization. It's the
It's
people.
not. Yeah, it is. It is. And, I hate to say it, but the lights and the scents and the arches and the, coming from a themed wash, like the animatronic animals, it's not
Yeah, like
enough.
rainforest. Come on, Tara.
I know the waterfalls, right? Everybody should get
Yeah,
one. Uh, but it's not enough, right? It's enough to pull people in, but it's
yeah,
not enough to keep them, right? It's one thing to sell somebody, it's a whole other to keep them, right? And the key part of a retention strategy has to be the people. It has to come from operations. I'm a big fan of saying good marketing is wasted on bad ops, but
mm,
it's true. It's true. You can drive a whole bunch of retail and a whole bunch of new volume to a store, but if they have a bad experience, whether or not the car is coming out great, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. They have to have a good experience, and that starts and stops with people.
yeah. So I'll share. So I won't name the wash in this instance, but
Oh.
maybe I will. We'll see how it goes. Um, I was. It's a larger chain, and I was really pretty surprised at the way that they handled a very minor damage claim for me. So we got a new vehicle recently, and the actually, if any of you are dealing with rear wipers of Audi SQ8s, those are a little bit of a bugger sometimes because the actual wiper blade sticks out beyond the rear wiper piece, and so oftentimes you go up and you check it, right, to see if it's going to like come off and get ripped off. It doesn't do anything, it's fine, but the extra wiper blade portion that sticks out gets caught frequently in the cloth and gets flung right off. So the first back up. First time this happened, we didn't realize it was at the wash, right? So we're like, oh, that's weird. Maybe they just forgot to put the wiper blade in. That would be really strange. So the next time we went to the wash and we came back, and I'm like, oh, it got ripped off because it came back and everything was all wonky. I'm like, okay, I get it. So I started through the process of like the damage claim thing, and like, so I called. I'm a member of this group, and it was really painful. Like it was a really bad experience to try to get through it. Not that it was like they weren't negative, or it wasn't like overly like, hey, we didn't do anything wrong, go pound sand or anything like that. But it was like really hard for me to just say, hey, my wiper blade came off. Would you just like, I don't know, credit me for a month so to pay for the price of the blade that I have replaced twice now? Like, can we make that easy? And it wasn't.
Right.
It was like, here's the process. You've called our central call location. You need to go visit the location in the vehicle where the thing happened. I'm like, well, I'm not saying you scratch the car. It's just it's a wiper blade. Like,
right.
So there's some level of like when you get to that customer service experience, and if you're dealing with some claims and some of that kind of stuff, yes, process is important and you have to have them in order for yourself to scale. But where do we have opportunities to be able to plug into that process and say, oh, this is a little bit of an anomaly. We should pull that out and like treat that differently.
Right.
So how do we train our people? This goes back to people. How do we train our people to recognize those moments and empower them with what they need to make those decisions so that someone who's been a member for over a year doesn't have a bad experience over something so silly and end up walking to the wash down the street. So that was a long story to get there, but it's very recent in my
you
mind.
got there. So I think a couple things. I think a lot of time processes are created with business in mind, not consumer in mind, right? That might be what makes the most sense for the company. That might be what makes, minimizes the most risk for the company. But what about the customer on the other end of that process? What is their experience like? And you used a word empower, and I love that term. It's something that I used quite often within my own organization. And what we did is we created policies and processes where if it's at a certain threshold, the site manager is empowered to make decisions. It makes for a better customer service experience. It makes it quicker. And we have them in a position of power. We trust them if we've done our hiring well, right? We've hired good people and we put them in a position where they can make good decisions. Now, if we can't trust our people to make good decisions, that's a whole other problem. That's a people problem, not a process problem, right? We don't need to, it's almost like a Band-Aid, right? We create different processes to walk around, not the best people, right? Underperforming people, right? Because we don't want to let them go. We don't want to replace them. But at the end of the day, you can't empower the wrong people to make those decisions. You have to empower the right people. And it starts with having them on your team. So it's a bit of a long-winded answer, and there is no like black and white, but truly when you're creating processes and you're going through damage claims or you're going through refund processes, make sure to include some element of empowering your people on site. Doesn't have to be everyone. It can be assistant manager or just site manager, but empower someone on site to make decisions. Your customers will thank you for it, and so will your people.
Yeah. 1,000%. One of the things that you were just touching on that I think is kind of interesting. So we've been talking about customer experience and how people make the difference and how it makes people feel, right? And in some of the latest research that came out from the International Car Wash Association, there was this number about members, car wash subscribers, car wash members are highly satisfied with their membership, like above just about any other subscription that they have. It's like a 77% say that they're very satisfied. That's an amazing number. Like, we should all like pause for a moment and celebrate that win, because that's pretty awesome. That means we're doing a good job. But if you flip it around to the next page, what you see is a number that says, the question was something around, I feel special when I go to my car wash, right? Like, or how does your car wash make you feel? And the percentage of people who could say that their experience at their car wash made them feel special was down at like 17%, like less than 20%. That like is like alarm bells going off for me, because I'm like, man, you have all these members who are so satisfied, but you don't make them feel special. How long is that going to last?
Exactly. Yep. And it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity. There's a couple sides to that. There's operators who'll be like, well, it's just a car wash. Why? Like,
Mm-hmm.
why do I need to make them feel special? And I would say, oh, well, there's your problem. But there is a lot of ways that you can do that. Right? We spoke about amenities a couple episodes ago, and it you can use that as a lever to make people feel special and empower your team to make people feel special. We think about infrequent giveaways. If we think about
Mm-hmm.
personalization, using their names, saying hello to them, asking them about their day if they're stuck at XPT waiting. There's a lot of things that you can do, small things, that make a really big difference and make people feel like they're a part of something. Right? Our members, they love the member lane. Why? Because it makes them feel special, right? Right? It makes them feel elite. They love it. They absolutely love it. It makes sense why such a large percentage of members like love their wash and love their membership is they feel entitled to a special lane. There's a lot more you can pour into that to make people feel special that doesn't take a lot of effort.
So you touched on something there that is maybe not for this episode. If you haven't listened to the episode on free versus not free, you all should do that, because it gets into this next comment I have a little bit more fully. But when you're talking about how you're making that member feel and things like VIP lanes and how do you make sure that they stay around, there's a really big trap that we get into where we want to give them a whole bunch of stuff and give them a whole bunch of stuff all of the time and keep giving them more stuff and keep giving them more stuff. We got to fight against that a little bit and make sure that the stuff that we give those members and the ways we make them feel special is truly valuable and is truly on brand with how we want them to feel valued. So just a little caveat there for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a shameless plug to go listen to our other episodes.
Yeah, they should though.
It's our show. I mean, we get to do whatever we want, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I completely agree that the easy default is always giving things away. That's the easy answer.
And the thing with the thing that comes out with people when they're a member too, and this is another change in consumer behavior, is they want more. They expect more because guess what? They are a member. They paid for it. That's my wash.
Right.
Oh, like,
right.
Whoa.
Right.
You're right. Yeah, you do feel like it's your wash. So how are we delivering on that promise?
Right. Absolutely. And I think we mentioned this in the previous episode. Members get entitled, and all of us have dealt with the entitled member who gets upset that someone else went before them because they're in the fast lane and they don't understand the queue. In my mind, that's not necessarily a problem, right? That is somebody who really enjoys their membership. That's somebody, yes, it's annoying and it's very frustrating, and it is, those customers are very difficult. However, at the same time, I can bet that those customers will stay the longest if we're able to provide them a good customer experience because they care. They care about their membership. They care about getting their wash, right? Maybe it comes out in not the best way, but it's something that they see as value. So then the question is, what else can we do to provide people value, right? That doesn't come at a cost of towels, fresheners, dash wipes, whatever it might be. And again, it always circles back to the people. As customer behavior and consumer perceptions change, so do we have to innovate and grow with that. And as disconnected as the world is, people are craving human connection just as like more than ever now. And again, I know that there's certain operators who say my customers don't want to talk to people, they're rude, they're mean. Okay, then just wave and smile, right? Tell them to have a good day when they drive by. They can hear you. They don't have to have their window rolled down. It's not a big deal. It's just one customer out of thousands that they'll see. It's not a big deal.
Yep. People can hear a smile. Turns
Yes.
out
Yeah.
they can
Yeah, they
hear it,
certainly can, and they can feel it.
which is which is so lovely. It's
It
just so
is.
lovely, Tara.
It
Like
is. It is such a nice addition to
such
this.
a, yeah, just feeling smiles and warm and fuzzy because
Yeah. Yeah, but I think
this stuff's easy.
right, right, and especially at PayStation, I think consumers have changed quite a bit at PayStations in general. If we think about
Say more.
we think about paying, right? Apple Pay, Cash App, Venmo, being able to accept any form of payment that the customer has. I know that there's a big conversation of cash versus cashless. There's not enough conversation around the money apps that people use every single
Mm,
day. And it's something that is not being met by the current point of sales quick enough. We have to adapt. We have to be able to move with the market and be able to provide consumers and meet them where they're at. They want fast transactions. They don't want to pull out their card. They want to be able to tap their phones or tap their card. They just want to get through as quick as possible. And being able to accommodate that, I mean, that is the epitome of a good experience, right? Do you guys take Cash App? Absolutely, we do. Do you guys take, all I have is Venmo? Okay, we'll take that. It is, they anticipate, oh no, we're not going to be able to do that, or they ask that question because they anticipate the negative response, right? The no. But imagine if we could say yes.
yeah.
Imagine a world where we could say yes. I know it's not there. I know the technology is not there, and I know that point of sales are trying to get there, but when we actually get there, it'll be a really exciting day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the folks that figure it out first are going to do well for themselves
Yes.
because because if you're the wash on the street that can do those things,
Hmm.
man, talk about differentiation.
Yeah. Talk
Like,
about an advantage.
good grief. Like, yeah, not having to turn somebody away or not having to send them through on a free wash because they came up in the middle of a busy day, busy Saturday, and now your queue's all screwed up because you couldn't take the payment that they were trying to provide.
Yep. Yep. Imagine putting out on a digital screen or a billboard out front that says we take Apple Pay or we
Yeah.
take Cash App. Like that sends a big message, right? Is that a lot of times customers hear no at car wash when it comes to payment, unless they have a credit card, debit card, or cash, right? A lot of times, I know certain car washes take tap pay. I know that certain car washes do, but we think about recharges and tokenizations, that becomes a really
Yeah.
big challenge. So being able to adapt in that, I think, is crucial moving forward in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, and it's not an easy problem to solve. We shouldn't be flippant with that, but it is
Oh, no,
something that
not at
can be
all.
solved.
Hmm.
Others have solved it. It can be solved, um, and I think it does speak profoundly to the professionalization of this industry, right? Like,
Yes.
what do we want to be? How do we want to show up? And we want to show up as an innovative space, a space that is with it when it comes to technology, not something that's your grandfather's car wash. Like, we don't want to go back and have people have that kind of perception of the businesses that we run.
Right.
Let's be leading edge. Let's be professional. Let's look the part of how we show up every day.
Right. Right. And that's going to change how your consumers show up every day
A
as well.
1,000%. Oh my
Yep.
gosh, 1,000%. All right, Sarah. I've got a whole bunch of other things that I'd love to talk to you about as it relates to consumer experience and changing behaviors, but we're getting a little long on time. And so I want to ask you a different question. We
Okay.
can come back to the consumer stuff and then lots of other episodes. I want to come and finish with one that's more around some just general advice for people who might be listening to the show. I'm big on, I used to ask people, what's one thing we could do today that's going to make us better tomorrow? I'm modifying that a little bit. I want to know what's a small change that has made a big difference for you, because I believe wholeheartedly in this concept that small changes can make a big difference in your overall impact and outcome. So, what's for you is something that's been a small change that you've made that's made a really big difference?
Yeah. So this year, not a lot of people know, but this year has been probably the hardest year of my life. I lost my father in August. I'm an only child, and I lost my mother 12 years ago. Um, so that was a really, really big deal for me. On the back of, moving out of my career and going through an acquisition and jumping into the entrepreneur world and finding, oh, that might be a little too lonely for me, right? It's been a really, really unstable year with a lot of ups and downs. And on the back of my father passing away, what I found is learning how to pause. I almost
Mm.
think about it as the power of the pause. Is this industry and this life is always so go go go, right? But what I began to realize when my dad passed away is that I need to give myself the space to just exist and to just be away from my phones, away from social media, and just be like, hang out with my animals, go outside, do something, right? That has nothing to do with work, that has nothing to do with the life stress of, money and taxes and things like that. I think for me, forcing myself to be bored has been huge. I
Hmm.
don't think people are bored anymore, right? And through boredom spurs creativity. Like my creative thinking has improved so much since I've been forcing myself to be bored, right? If we think about it, we always have a screen in front of our face. We're always doing something, responding to someone, thinking about work, whatever. If you just be and you just exist, amazing things can come from it. And you can find a level of peace that you haven't felt in a long time. And so that's one thing that I have kind of learned late this year, but has been really impactful for not only just the grieving process, but just realigning myself after burnout and a really tumultuous year.
I really like that concept, Tara. For the record, no one would ever know that this year has been hard for you. Or this last year was a hard year for you.
Appreciate it.
You've not shown, you've not let it show, and you are bringing phenomenal insights and resources and value to this industry. So
I
kudos to you for
appreciate
that.
that.
Apparently, it's all in the stillness.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, that and I think to that point too, Matt, maybe sometimes we do need to talk about it, right? I think we
Yeah.
all would realize how much we all have in common going through life struggles and having those feelings. We all try to be perfect and polished professionals, but we're all going through really bad stuff sometimes. And I think the more that we can talk about it and the more that we can relate to each other, I think the more connected we all can become.
Man, we should just end it there.
Mic drop.
Yeah, I mean, good grief. How like we just talked about how people need to be more connected, and you brought it all back for us,
The
Tara.
full
You
circle
brought it all
moment.
back for us.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of sharing and caring and telling, um, I too in the last year, this, have kind of reinvigorated my entrepreneurial side and been trying to push out and go connect with people and do all those kinds of things. And I will tell anybody who will listen, it is not for the faint of heart. It is a challenging thing to put yourself out there like that. And I know that you've done that just in terms of like starting to get more out there from a content perspective and putting those opinions out there. But for me, one of the things that I did, and goes back to the small change, big difference. Um, I had to really get intentional about sending people follow up notes, just for no reason other than to maintain connections. Right. I had all of these built-in connection points for myself for the last decade or so, where it was easy. I didn't have to work that hard to maintain connections because I saw people all the time, which is ironic because at least at one point in my life, I was an introvert. People probably wouldn't believe that today, but I was an introvert. I still, at my core, probably am. So when it moved into this space where I had to like think about how am I going to maintain these relationships, that was a whole different thing for me. And so one of the small things I've done is just set aside time once a week for 15 minutes where I send a couple of messages to people that I haven't talked to in a little while, just to say, hey, how's it going? Like, what are you up to? It's been a minute since we talked, and there's no there's no motivation in that message other than, hey, how are you? Like, I just want to know how you're doing. And that's been a very small thing, but it's made a big difference for me because I've had to think for myself about who are the people that I really want to maintain relationships with, and who do I value and who do I want to be part of that circle that I'm connecting with and doing great things with. So yeah, that's my thing. That's what's made a big difference for me, being intentional about who I'm reaching out to and who I'm staying connected to.
That's beautiful, and I think that resonates with me, right? Coming from like being around people all the time and coming from a very boots on the ground position to working from home for myself, it's a culture shock, right? And to your point, you have to be very intentional to reach out to people that you aren't seeing all the time, and you want to maintain that relationship. And it's so important, again, connecting with each other, right? It's a full circle moment. It's all about connection.
I love it. I love it. Tara, well, thanks for spending some time connecting with me today.
Thank you.
Again, 800 circles, all the circles.
Yes,
We have all the circles today.
It's a very meaningful episode.
Yeah, for sure. And we will do more of these. Friends, you're going to see and hear from Tara more and more on this program as we get along in our episodes. But Tara, thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Friends, if you're listening or watching, you know exactly what you have to do, and that is rate us, subscribe us, support us in whatever way you might be able to, because at the end of the day, this show is ad-free, sponsor-free, and always will be, because we believe that there is a need for that kind of transparency and that kind of a resource for you in this industry. That's why we're here. Obviously, if you want to give me money, I will take your money. But I would rather do that by helping you with some kind of communication or marketing problem that you're struggling with. So reach out to me if you want to talk more about that. Until next time, friends, get out there, help others, help yourself, and go have a great day.